I'm going to talk about finance for startups, and the Shell Livewire people did a survey recently of hundreds of entrepreneurs and would-be entrepreneurs and asked them what their biggest problems were. And the two biggest problems, not surprisingly, were getting the finance together to start a new venture, and the second problem was keeping themselves going until supporting themselves basically until the company was generating enough money that they could start to draw a salary. So these are the real big problems, and there's no simple one size fits all kind of answer. There's no silver bullet, but there are lots of ways the whole thing can be tackled. So there are some strategies would-be entrepreneurs can adopt. So I just want to run through some of those. The very first one is, if you're thinking about starting a new venture, try and do a lot of the planning while you're actually doing your previous job or your previous course if you're a student. Try to get things going before you're pushed into a position where you have to basically support yourself through the venture. So you can do a huge amount of research. With the internet now, it's very easy to get hold of information. You could do a lot of preparation and prepare things very thoroughly. But sooner or later, you're going to get to the point where you want to press the go button and start. So the question is, what do you actually, what do you do to get the money together? Well, the first source of money is actually what you've earned yourself. So if you've had a job, even a part-time job, you've got any assets at all, you can actually sort of start doing something. And then the other main thing that people do is that sometimes they get support from their families and sometimes friends. Now, it's not without problems doing that, because it's highly risky and families are quite likely to support their favourite son or daughter just because it's them. But that is the reality. Quite often people do get some sort of level of support right at the beginning, even if it's only living rent-free for a while. So this is really important. What I would also say is think about the customers. So ultimately, businesses are going to supply goods and services to customers. So how quickly can you actually get something ready to sell to a customer? So they often talk about, in the jargon, having a minimum viable product. Sounds a bit jargony, doesn't it? But it basically means, what can you actually start supplying at the earliest possible opportunity and get paid for it? And it's, by the way, a really good experience the first time you sell something and a customer pays and they're happy with it and all that. So the sooner you can get to that point, the better. That said, some businesses just take longer to get to that point. Very notably, technology businesses often require months or typically years to develop, doing all the R&D before you really have something that you can sell. So that may affect whether you can actually get into that line of business at all. You may just not be able to get together the necessary finance to do it. So beyond customers and friends and family, I should also mention competitions are extremely useful because they're often sort of free money, no strings attached. And just going in for these business plan competitions gives you a lot of experience, free publicity, and it helps you refine your ideas and also steal ideas from other people. So that's a good way to go. Beyond that circle of people though, you're then looking at investors. So with investors, you are selling part of your company to them for some money, some investment money that comes in. And usually the very first investors are called angels. This is a rather romantic name that comes from the world of the theatre, where angels basically fund the production of new plays or musicals in the West End. And so the actors always regarded them as these figures, someone from the heavens who came down with some money to start things off. Now we use that term in the business setting to mean usually pretty well-off individuals who've had some success in other areas of business and are prepared to reinvest, if you like, some of the money they've made in your business. To get to that point, you really need to have pretty good business plans. You need to have an investable idea. So you need to have some proof that there's really a market. And most of all, really, you have to have a lot of personal credibility, because ultimately they're investing in you, and they're relying on your honesty and your determination to make the business successful. So there are other sources of finance beyond that stage. For more mature ventures, it's possible to get government-backed loans, and there are new models, if you like, for angel investing coming along. There's something called crowdfunding. So a scheme called Kickstarter has just launched in the UK. It's been very successful in the US, launched recently. There's another scheme called Crowdcube, where basically people can, with much smaller amounts of money than a normal angel investor would put in, can get involved in early stage companies. But that's really, I'd say, for when you've got a pretty well developed idea of what the company will do. And those other sources of funding, you know, the early stage ones like your family and friends and so on, often will just put some money in to back you as an individual because they'd like to support your success. So there's a lot more to say about finance, but what I would say is, although it's the toughest problem, there's a lot of different ways of trying to tackle it, and to try to pick the way of tackling it that fits your personal circumstances and the type of idea you want to get off the ground. Those are the key things.